bring this meeting to order. Hope everyone's having a good night. All right, first on our agenda this evening is the consent agenda. Does anyone have anything they'd like to discuss or bring up?
Just have one thing. I passed out a updated report of the total incidentals for the month of February. I just went around and hand corrected one piece. There were a couple of formulas that just weren't working correctly with the original version. So this can just replace the one that was in the packet.
All right, fantastic. All right, anyone else have any other questions about the consent agenda? Anything else? Can I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to accept the
Sherry
consent
accepts.
agenda.
John seconds it. Can I have a vote? All in favor of accepting the consent agenda? Aye. All right, fantastic. All right, so this evening, I have the pleasure of welcoming Kate to give us a report. Good to see you.
It's nice to see you folks. I think the last time I was here was May 2024, so it's definitely been some time since I've been able to see everybody. I am Kate Tighe. I'm the head of youth services, just for the minutes. And so yeah, I know you've been following along on our reports that I send in. People ask me questions all the time, which is really great. Thank you so much for following what we're doing in youth services. This is probably one of our busiest times of year. I feel like I say that every season. It used to be in the business that summer was our busiest time. And now every season is busy. January, February, these are like the the doldrums of winter. And people are trying to get out and about with little kids. There's not a lot of places to go. We've had a lot of discussion about third spaces in America, and there's not a lot of free or any free third spaces other than the public library. So that's a role we really fill for people with young families and also for kids after school. So what we do this time of year is we do a very long programming session. We used to try to break up winter and spring. Spring is not really a season that exists here in New England. We have more of like that wet, muddy weather. So we just go January through April. Which is a long time. It's 16 weeks of programming. Usually we're doing 8 or 10, but we find this is just a time when people really do need the library the most, just because there is not many other places to go where you don't have to spend money and you can do fun things, and there's lots of things you can do at the library. My report is just filled with all the different programs we're doing. Every morning, Monday through Thursday, we do things for little people under 5. That's just standard practice now. We are still seeing the effects of kids who were born during COVID, and so they're still learning that, that social emotional learning how to be in a group is largely what we're doing those mornings. We do different things, we have things for different ages, but it's largely about getting kids and their caregivers together so they can make connections in our community, and also do a story time, which is amazing, but it's also how to learn how to be in a group where it's not just you and your caregiver. And that's still a pretty big deal, even though we're so many years past the pandemic. They're still being affected by that. So we've done a lot of really cool things. We continue our partnership with CFCE that we're still overseeing. Liz Hogrel is our program coordinator, our grant coordinator. Liz is doing some really exciting things, many things very similar to what we're doing. Liz runs a lot of play groups over at the Poirier Village Center, which is the house that we oversee, if you haven't been there yet. I'm hoping, actually, I'm going to issue, this is a save the date notice for everybody. It is going to be on June 27th. June 27th. We're going to have an open house at the Poirier Village Center. And this is going to invite all types of folks from the town, yourselves, folks from the Norwood Housing Authority. They actually oversee the actual facility of the house. And also, Board of Selectmen, different people from the town, as well as residents from the Jefferson Drive neighborhood, to really come and see the house. The house is not as utilized as much as it is now during the pandemic. So now that we're kind of back doing programming there 4 or 5 days a week, we want the community to see what's going on there and what Liz is doing, which is some really exciting things. In addition to programming, Liz does what's called the Ages and Stages questionnaire, which is kind of a community-based kind of developmental survey that parents can take about their child if they have any questions about their child's development. Again, a lot of people are very isolated and they don't necessarily know about all the major milestones of early childhood development. And so if anybody has any concerns, Liz is able to walk them through like a survey, and then she'll discuss the results with them. If it's something that they could kind of work on at home, she has all kinds of activities and ideas for folks. If it's something that we really need somebody to consult, a medical professional about, that's advice Liz can give them as well. So that's a really helpful point. So it can be a little, I think, unnerving when you're a young parent to realize maybe your child isn't where they should be, or you have like a sneaking suspicion that something isn't quite right. And then it's really hard to figure out how to phrase that to a doctor. So this is sort of a community-based approach that will hopefully sort of flag things that are easily correctable, speech delays, things like that, early on in childhood. So Liz is doing that as well. My staff is doing great, honestly. I could not do anything without them. Dina and Nicole are fantastic. Dina has really taken the bit and is running with after-school programming. She very ambitiously started a Girls Who Code club here at the library. If you're familiar with that, it's a national organization that promotes girls getting together and seeing themselves as future STEM professionals by doing some coding activities. There's now a literacy component because they now publish their own chapter books, which is really fun. So basically, Dina's able to get the curriculum from them, and every week they have a new task. It's basically learning how to do different things in Scratch, which is a very basic coding language that most kids seem to be exposed to even in school a little bit too. So that's been going really, really well. I think it was a big thing for Dina to take on, and I think the reason why she's so successful with it is that she is very good about being like, hey, I'm learning this along with you folks. I'm not like some teacher that knows everything. We're doing this together, and it's a much more collaborative effort. So that's going super well. And Nicole is doing after-school programming. We run a library art school. Every week we have kids come in, we pick a new artist, we talk about the artist's life, their work. Nicole puts together a little slideshow. Sometimes she reads a picture book biography. And then the kids will do a piece of artwork in the style of that artist. So that's been really, really fun as well. That's been really, really well received. I just subbed for her because Nicole was out on vacation last week, so I'm just like, okay, now I have to learn all this stuff, and that is fun. When my staff is out, I have to take that stuff on. So yeah, we're doing great, and obviously, like, all story times are going well. Things are going really great. The other thing we kind of wanted to talk about was we are thinking about a major collection move in the children's department. We are going to be switching the picture books, which are in their own little room right now behind the desk, out to the main floor, in the main room, where the nonfiction is. So the nonfiction are those long, tall shelves right in the middle of the room. The rest of the room is all fiction. Then we kind of have the nonfiction hanging out in the middle, and it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense in terms of how the room is laid out. Picture books are our most used, and Lydia, you can back me up here, right? Picture books are our most circulated collection, as you might expect. Somebody come in and told me they had been buying books this whole time when their child was 4 and they just couldn't do it anymore. I'm like, no, that's what we do. I know, I'm like, no, that's what we do. Come here, don't take home like 20 books a week, you'll be fine.
Buy your favorites.
Yeah, buy your faves that are the ones you like to reread. Come see us for the rest.
Exactly.
But that room, that collection needs room to grow. We are routinely underspent in that line just because we just physically don't have the room to grow in its current location, and it needs to grow because there's high demand for it. So we're going to swap those two collections, which sounds very neat and tidy, but it's going to require a lot of planning. We are hoping to make this move in September after summer reading is over. We have Space Force, which is our use of space in the library task force, helping us with that move. Lydia heads that as well. Technical Services is helping us with that. Technical Services has a whole other piece that they're helping us with. And also Michael from Circulation has actually done a similar project with adult collections at his previous library. So Michael's experience has been really invaluable. In fact, we were like, we're going to do this in May. And Michael very kindly took me aside and really is like, no, let's think about maybe a different time when, like another time where there's a bit of a lull in programming, and it's not right before summer reading when we usually get a whole host of new people and we're going to confuse them with how we've changed everything around.
Yeah.
So we're shooting for September to do that move. We have a lot of work to do in terms of weeding and collection maintenance before we are really ready to do that. So that's going to be the months leading up to that.
Okay.
I was planning. And then once that move is done, because we just love to be chaotic and cause our friends in technical services no end of agitation, We're thinking we are actually going to recatalog the picture book collection into topics. So right now, pretty standard way of organizing the collection is alphabetical by author's last name. Pretty easy. Not the way especially kids want to look for books. They just want to find books about dinosaurs. Or they just want to find books about princesses. Or they want to find stories about trucks. And so one of the ways we've mitigated that in the past since the pandemic is by putting together like actual book bundles, 5 books on a topic that the staff chooses. That's pretty labor intensive, and we've been doing it for years, and we love it, and the patrons love it. But it's letting us know that type of feedback. It's letting us know that this is actually possibly a better way to permanently reorganize the collection. So again, lots of research has to go into this. We visited our friends in Westwood. I've been in touch with the librarian from New Hampshire, who I saw do a presentation about this very topic at NELA, the New England Library Association conference last year. Just to see like how they do it, what categories they use, how they found the whole process, things to avoid, things to think about, and people have been extremely helpful. Actually, Westwood gave me how they organize it. They call it Picture Book City. We are going to probably call it something different, just so we're not copycats, as the kids like to say. I think we're probably going to call it Mustang Meadows or something Mustang oriented. And then we're going to have trails, and all the trails are going to be the different subject areas. It has been a real challenge to work with Lydia, not because she isn't great, but to try and figure out how are we going to like categorize certain things, because they're just sort of certain things that you're like, what do you mean? Like, how can this go into a specific category? Not everything is cut and dry. Like, this book is about animals. This book is about dinosaurs. So if you folks have any questions, and I don't want to belabor the point, Clayton had me bring some books, and I can kind of tell you what, yes, what's your question?
So are you planning to do the recategorization as part of the move? Is that what the intent
Well,
is?
that was the intent, but we quickly realized, and again, this is where Michael was very helpful, that we need to do the physical move first, and then we're going to recategorize, because I think it would be amazing and super efficient to feel like we could do both at once, but I think it would actually lead to more problems. I think
that sounds great.
Yeah,
I really do.
it's going to be really fun. I spoke with the librarians at Westwood. Their main feedback is that it is really wonderful for kids. Kids are very able to browse the collection even if they actually can't read, which is most kids who are looking for these items. It can be a little bit of a change for adults, including the staff. There's a higher burden on the staff because, you know, right now if someone says, where's the very hungry caterpillar? I said, okay, Eric Carl. Over to the seas we go. And I don't even need to look it up to see because it's on the shelf. It won't be there and we can find something else. There's going to be a thought process of, until we get used to it, well, is it under animals because it's about a caterpillar? Is it under days of the week because there's days of the week involved?
Yeah.
What about food? He eats all that food. So we are developing categories that have specific subtopics so we are able to help our friends in technical services know where things go. And then there's also sort of like a set of rules that go along. So if a book is like a holiday book, but it's about a favorite character, does it go in holiday books or does it go in favorite characters? And the answer is that holiday books trump favorite characters. So there's a whole series of different ways libraries have gone about helping people figure out where to find things. But in the meantime, we will always have the good old catalog, and we can just look things up. And it will say before the author's last name what category it's in, and then within each category it'll be author's last name. So we heard Westwood said that they've had some feedback from their adult patrons about that who are helping kids find things, but that's okay. I think we have time to help re-educate patrons, and we'll develop something similar to this. This was on display at Westwood, and they have handouts for people as well. So something similar will come from us once we do that move, but again, that's a longer process. So we anticipate this is a many-month process, and we will give everybody adequate notice about when everything changes. And then we'll be spending, the next several months just answering questions and helping people, which is completely fine. That's what we're here for. So I think those are our major topics to report on. Am I missing anything?
I think we covered it. I do want to, kind of stress when we do the move in September.
Yes.
It's going to be a few days where the children's room is going to be inaccessible.
Yes, and this is where we wanted to sort of, get you folks involved. We anticipate, and again, this is with Michael's expertise, since he's done this before with another library. The room itself is going to have to be closed. to patrons coming in. Number one, just safety wise, there's going to be piles and trucks of books everywhere. It's not going to be great to have kids coming in and out trying to get things while we're physically trying to move things back and forth. And then just logistically, we need to have everything in a very specific order so they end up on their new shelves in a very specific order. So we anticipate maybe 3 or 4 days of the room being closed. But again, as we get closer, we'll be able to let everybody know. And it'll be after school starts. So it's not, we usually have a lull in September. Everybody's getting used to that fall schedule again. So it's not like a super high use time. You know, we would not want to do something like this in July or in January. You know, those are our 2 high months. So yeah, we're going to be working with, you know, technical services about that as well.
Are you going to notify the schools just so they...
Yeah, we have a list of folks that we've already started to think about of who we would need to notify, just so that people know, like,
You
you
don't
know.
want them to say, go to the library, kids, and get this book today.
Yeah, yes, we will let everybody know well in advance, and we'll have decided, I think we'll probably have decided on the dates by the summer, just so we can have something, a goal to work towards.
For myself and for the home audience, I'd like to get a kind of an overview about what you mean by youth and how the programs or approaches differ as you go from birth to graduation from high school.
Oh, yeah, they vary.
And
Yeah.
also, to what extent are certain age groups deferred over to the schools?
Yeah.
Are certain issues deferred over to the health department?
Yeah.
Or do you have overlapping programs? I remember when I was 10 or 12, and I first got into science fiction,
Yeah.
and they had a whole lot of books that were written for people of that age. They
Yeah.
were simpler, shorter, and such. And so what's the philosophy here about who are we here to serve? Most of what I heard from you was what I would call preschool.
Yes. I would say, so in terms of people who come in, those are our most in-person patron group that we see and serve. Kids under 5. The next group I would say is kids after school, which are usually school-age kids. I would say anywhere from like 5 to 10, that age. We do see middle school and high schoolers, but one of the ways we see them is that they are looking for volunteer hours. So it's not just that they want to come and sit here while we do a program for them. They want to do something that will help them with school, their volunteer hours, and they want to do something where they will meet other kids and sort of interact. So we have a volunteer program that we run. For high schoolers, we actually also run, usually quarterly, sometimes every other month, depending on availability. We partner with an online organization that does a lot of college prep work, and so those programs are all virtual. So that's people signing on and just seeing a program about how to write a great college essay, what to think about when you're a sophomore, a second semester sophomore. So that's sort of that end. We definitely do in-person programs for teens as well, usually either every other month or quarterly, but we find that's a more smaller, like interest-based group. Dina primarily handles that audience.
What about the collection as opposed to the programs? I mean, do you have an identifiable section of the collection which hits that sweet spot for tweens that I was referencing for myself?
Well, this is an interesting question about what we call genreification. It also has, like you mentioned, genre. It also has kind of gone by age. So we obviously have board books for babies. They can't be destroyed. They're cardboard. Picture books are for those like preschool kids, kids who are starting early elementary school. Then we have easy readers for kids who are learning to read independently. That's really good practice for them. It used to be that you would go right onto chapter books, but there needed to be an in-between collection, which I think 2 years ago we worked with technical services and brought out bridge books, which are shorter chapter books that still have illustrations. Then we go into chapter books. Now chapter books can run from, I would say like 2nd through 5th, 6th grade. We don't have a specific tween section yet. It is in the idea pot to think about. People have asked us for what we used to call middle grade, which is kind of that age that you mentioned.
I'm thinking of, in particular, if you go into a bookstore like Barnes & Noble, they have, I think they call it young adult. And that's where, for example, the the books from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and that
Yeah.
was a big thing.
Yep.
Would be showing up.
Yeah, so we do have a young adult room, or corridor, as we like to say sometimes.
Okay.
And so that is solidly for kids. We really recommend that for like 7th and 8th grade and up. You know, mature 7th and
Okay.
8th grade students, and then definitely high schoolers. So that middle grade is always kind of I mean, those years are kind of rough anyway.
Yeah.
Middle school is kind of a rough time anyway. But those years, they would fall into like the J fiction category. And there are definitely some libraries, like for example Brookline, they do have a separate tween room. They call it the tween room. I think tween.
And we have a quarter.
Well, we have a quarter for the young adults, so not even the
No,
tweens.
but I'm trying to get a sense of what's
Yeah.
in the quarter. Is that
Young
where
adults. Yeah.
the actual books?
Yes. Correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
And 2 chairs.
And 2 chairs and a table. Yes.
And
We
a
try to
pillow.
maximize our space as best we can.
It's not.
Teens are welcome everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will say we
Nice
have
lamps.
we usually have a nice group of teens who come in. Most of them occupy the 2nd floor, not where the reference area is, but where the nonfiction is, where we have a lot of comfy seats. And we've had a great rapport with them and no issues. Most kids just want to study. They want to use the Simone room for like group projects. Are they filming TikToks in there? Maybe. We don't know. But they're probably doing group work in there as well. And then some kids really just want to study on their own, especially if they're older high school kids.
If I had 2 suggestions,
Sure.
one is that part of what you do could use more visibility.
Yeah, I think so.
In whatever form visibility takes. The other is, and I've been doing this since I got on the board, is graphic novels.
Yes.
You know, are they?
Have
are
you
they-
gotten into manga yet, John?
Oh, sure.
Okay, so I would say that is one of our most popular collections is manga. Dina is a manga expert. She knows a ton. It's a personal interest of hers. She presented at a conference about it. She's actually going to be presenting to all of Massachusetts youth librarians about it. And we keep growing that collection.
Well, an advantage of manga is that they have a lot more different genres routinely
Within.
represented.
Yes.
If you go to a Japanese bookstore,
Yeah.
there's a whole section of boys' novels and a whole section of girls' novels, and they're playing soccer and all these sorts of things. Things you would not find an American counterpart for.
Yeah.
So I can see that being a real
Yeah.
advantage in filling in interest areas that, not because they're manga, but because they are interest areas
Yeah.
not well covered elsewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a really great collection. If you want to come down and see it, I would encourage you to. Dina's always on the hunt for new series. If you're familiar with manga, it is a wonderful collection because kids are so interested in it, but it's also a little bit of a challenge space-wise because usually series are like 30, 40 volumes plus long, so that's a lot of space on the shelf. So Dina really tries to keep things rotating and fresh.
Just a tip, sort of, it's who you know, not what you know kind of thing. One of the managers down at Applebee's is a woman who's into manga,
Oh,
and we talk about it when we're in there. And she has found that the what used to be New England Comics
Yes.
now is independent. They have an expert in manga who's
yeah.
more than willing to recommend what he's liking. And so if Dina wanted just some ideas to think
Yeah.
about, take a walk over and
Yeah.
establish a relationship.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah, I'll
what
pass that
might go
along. That's great. Yes, but very loved part of the collection. We could devote a whole floor to it, I think, and people would be happy about it, to be honest with you. So yeah, that's what we got going on. Does anyone have any other questions about the move, the picture book move, what we're doing?
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, it'll be great. And honestly, everybody that we've talked to in technical services has been super supportive. And even other library staff who don't necessarily directly have contact with the children's department, they have been extremely supportive and willing to just be like, hey, I am a body, I can help you move things from point A to point B, which is really helpful. So everyone's very excited about it and thinks it makes a lot of sense. So
Clayton,
Yes.
you can verify this if you agree with the memory. When we do surveys about what people like about the library, whatever they're doing is always really, really high.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
yeah, we try to get out there. If we could just like, we could just be everywhere at once. That would be ideal. If we could be at every event, at every community event, in the building all the time, I think that would be ideal. But we do try to get out of the library a bit to kind of establish those community relationships you were mentioning, because that's also really how we get more patrons to come in and more people know about our services.
Yeah,
Absolutely
Yeah.
delighted to see you outside.
Yes, many friends. Yes, well, thank you for letting me
Oh, thank you.
chat on,
No.
and I'll let you folks get to the rest of your business.
All right. Fantastic. Well, thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
again. Thanks for all your hard work.
Oh,
And
thank you.
when Clayton told me that that move was coming, I was like, wow,
Yeah.
they're strong and brave. So, no,
Yeah.
but it makes a lot of sense, obviously,
Yeah.
for a lot of reasons. So I think it's going to be fantastic. And,
Oh, thank you.
And I'm sure you'll definitely feel that way when it's over. Right?
Yes.
All right, so let's move on to reports.
All right. I'm sorry you don't get to spend more time looking at the books that you gotta bring Kate to. I just want to say, before we move on, just what a great job Kate does leading
Oh,
the
thank
departments you do, and your team. It's just so fabulous, and I do know that you are much loved in the community.
Oh,
You drive
thank
so
you.
much of the goodwill that we have, so thank you.
Thanks.
Could Kate pass these around and we can look while we're
Absolutely.
also doing the rest of our
That
agenda?
makes sense to me. No, you want to talk a little bit about how you chose what you brought?
Well, I tried to choose things that were not super obvious about what category they might go in. I did include a few easy ones. Like, this is called Pizza for the Queen, the story of like how what the origins of pizza are.
Okay.
We definitely have, and then I was like, well, if we use Westwood's like format, like what would we choose for this? I don't know. I will admit, and I didn't quite say this in my report, but many librarians really emphasize the importance of having something called more to explore, or stories, or just like a general category where if you can't quite figure out where to put it, this is where you would put it.
A junk drawer.
A catch-all.
Junk drawer, exactly.
Yes, exactly.
Might you have a most popular too? 'Cause-
Yes. Yeah. We definitely, most libraries seem to have like either favorite characters, popular characters,
No.
popular authors,
Yeah.
something of that nature. So like this is actually a very popular book, because anything, if you've had small children, about underwear is extremely popular. It's very funny. And so anyway, this is about a bear. It's also about underwear, but it's also a story of friendship. So like these are the types of really like very deep topics we would need to wrestle with and help. Lydia's already looking at me like, you? What do you mean? You mean technical services?
Sometimes you have multiple copies of books. Do you think you're
Yes.
going to place them in multiple categories?
So I think if it's something that's super popular, like I could envision us having multiple copies of The Very Hungry Caterpillar. Now that could go under food. That could go under concepts
Yeah,
like
right,
Days of the
right,
Week.
right.
Could go under just popular titles, because it is a popular title still. Yes, we could have multiple copies that would definitely still circulate.
You'd split them up.
Yes. And then the other piece of advice is if you really can't figure it out and you're not really sure where it would go, is a patron really going to find it? Like, how is this going to be searched for? Do you really need it in your collection? So that's another thing to think about as well.
Sure.
And then this is great too. This is a book called Snow Horses. It's about horses, obviously. It's about winter, but it's also about New Year's Eve. So we would have to figure that out.
Mhm.
Probably holiday celebrations usually trump all other categories. So that might be where we put it. But who knows? We'd have to make those decisions.
On your previous remark about you have to figure out where to go,
Yeah.
to go, did you think about asking the kids?
We could. Although I have to say, the way they think about things is always very different to how we adult minds might think about things. So that would be, maybe we could have new books. Yeah. Where do you think this should go?
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
How much it
to my
weighs.
house.
My
hopefully, is
house.
the
Yeah,
answer,
my
right?
house.
Not above my reach.
Yeah, exactly. I know. And this is again Penguin ABCs. We have a whole section devoted to concepts, so things we want little kids to learn: colors, shapes, numbers, ABCs. But it's about penguins.
Yes.
Now, concept books trump other things because we're learning our ABCs for this
Right,
book. We're
so
not really
that's-
learning anything about
Right.
penguins.
So,
Yep.
So now you can kind of see these are the sort of quandaries we're going to have, and
Good decisions. to
Lydia's
have to
face
make.
is already just like, yes,
No, it's
Kate,
good.
you
The
will.
great thing about our staff is that we have really
Yes.
good cross-departmental
Yes.
cooperation. So,
And tech services has been so great. They have given so much great feedback of just about like the process of how we order things and how we, then organize them once this move has already been done. Lydia's been great about looking over our categories and being like, what about this? Or what about this? I don't think about, what about this?
Well, I just think that it's a great opportunity for some amazing interdepartmental debates.
Yes.
Um,
Oh, it already has been. Because like Lydia's a very organized thinker, and she's like, okay, well, let's think this through all the way. And then children's, we're just like, we'll wing it, and we don't want to wing it.
Because we've heard, in communicating with other libraries who've done some other things, in some libraries, they say, oh, we in this department, we pretty much did everything because we told other department, and they, really like
Didn't want anything to do with it.
Want anything to do with
Yeah.
it, and they didn't, they couldn't take on the extra
Yeah.
work or what. So we just handled it, and I mean that shoots the other department in the foot because
Yeah.
so they're gonna go ahead and do it without your input,
Yeah.
and then you might be sorry. And
Yeah.
Well, the
after
thing you have to
fact.
think about is that you're setting up a future system.
Mhm.
So if I'm not here one day, if Lydia's not here one day, all of our staffs are gone, like how are we going to organize this so the next group of staff members down the road can look at this and be like, okay, this makes sense. I understand how they organize this.
So, I'm sorry.
I'm also thinking that
Thanks.
since it's all going on computer, you can sort by the primary category, but you can have codes or other things for other things. And what made me think of that was snow horses, because the art in snow horses is much more abstract and sophisticated than in all the other books.
Yep.
And you could have a tag that says, if somebody's interested in how do you do it and what goes into it,
Yeah.
look at these books. We've
Yeah.
already picked them out, and they fit into that.
Yeah, we actually have a capability within our catalog that allows us to create tags within the
There you
catalog
go.
so the public can see it, which we've done for a number of things. Yeah, so that's another good idea to keep in mind. Yeah.
I was just
Any
going to
more time?
echo that exactly, primary,
Yeah.
secondary. I'm
Yes.
sure you're already thinking that
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
And then,
We also have one called maybe like we might do a category called Big Ideas because like much like that Snow Horses book, it's a poem. And sometimes there are picture books that are like, ooh, would I read this to a smaller kid, or is this more like to share with other adults? Is it to share with an older audience of kids? Is it a wordless picture book? Does it have kind of like high concept art or high concept text? So we might invest in one of those categories as well.
and I'm wondering if you've already considered looking at Barnes & Noble and Amazon in addition.
Yeah, to see
'cause
how
they
they-
spend a lot of time thinking about that. And
Yeah, I think one of the things about, bookstores is there aren't librarians always working there. So the way we think about it might be different than sometimes we see things like I see things that are like, ooh, that's not really what I would consider a fantasy. So we are invested a little more in certain genres and the definitions of those genres. Maybe they're thinking about like sales and how to, market
Right.
things adequately. So we have to find a balance of like how to make it accessible to people, which is what's great about bookstores. But also like I said, if we are all not here, will it make sense to the next generation of folks who are staffing this place? So
And there's always A to Zoo, which is a great reference book that helps you if you're looking for any genre, like something that fits a
Oh,
genre,
yeah.
and it's updated all the time. I don't know
Yeah.
if we keep our copy updated.
we don't keep a virtual copy. We don't have a print copy anymore, but it is available online.
It was always an historic, big, thick book of
Yeah.
children's books. it's
And you can look up
specifically
any
books.
topic
okay.
Yeah.
and find.
I need red balloons. Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will
That's
say
awesome.
Aspen, our catalog that we have now, is pretty great about being able to find things by subject as well.
Okay.
Then just getting it on the shelf is.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Now, where do we find it? That's always our challenge here.
Thank you. It's very
Okay.
interesting.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
No, thanks for bringing those.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me indulge that a little bit.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I feel like I held
Of
everybody
course.
up here,
Yeah.
so you guys gotta get on with your business.
Moving into reports, as you asked before. Personnel report, I have one departure. Joanne Warren has had her last shift. She worked for us part-time for a number of years, but has decided it's time to hang a hat. So we're very grateful for her service. Also, on contract updates, just recently, we have a signed contract.
Oh.
I haven't seen it yet, but
Yes, it is signed. I signed it.
So I'll be seeing it very shortly.
Yes.
I'm very grateful that we're through that process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Fantastic.
straightforward.
Good.
On the programming report, there's a lot of exciting things coming up. We have February vacation week, and there's a lot happening there. I brought some things to pass around. We have the joy of journaling here at the end of the month.
Yes.
For people who write journals.
Very popular.
We have a virtual program with Simone Rios, who's a WBUR journalist, on a migrant family search for a home in Massachusetts. That's happening on Wednesday the 19th, so next week. We have local food. I just grabbed a handful from the display. Local food, climate chaos, and you with Carrie Conconogenis, local food program manager on February 25th. Should be really interesting. This weekend, just the day after Valentine's Day, we have New England Rose Gardening Tips with Master Rosarian David Canestraro for the New England Rose Society, which should be really neat. I brought the whole calendar if you want to peruse that. And then we have a couple of book displays right now. One is all to help people who are looking for a job or would like to improve their employment situation. The Norwood Community Job Fair, where we're doing this in conjunction with Mass Hire. I encourage anybody to check that out. And then we also have a fun program celebrating Black History Month. Boston Beginnings, the lives and times of Martin and Coretta Scott King, who met here in Boston. And the person presenting is Joel McCall, is a tour guide in Boston. He has some original photos that he's bringing from his own personal collection, including this photo here, which is one of the only known pictures of Martin and Coretta when they were here as a couple in the early days. So he'll be bringing the originals for everybody to share. It's really neat. And because it is Black History Month, I also brought a booklet together celebrating Black librarians. That I just thought I would share because it's really special. Our company is a really nice display right now too. So.
Great.
This job fair says, make sure you have a job seeker ID number. What's that?
So you register with Mass Hire. They are doing the registration, and they can help people get that job seeker ID number. It's part of working with Mass Hire and their employment services. So, we encourage for that one, and many, if not everything that I just mentioned, we do ask people to register ahead of time. Often we manage the registration, but for the job fair, because it's with Mass Hire, they're managing the registration for that and talking with all the employers that are going to be coming.
Does the flyer mention what you just told Donna?
I don't know.
Mass Hire is the place to talk to?
It
Might
does,
be a
it's got a
little,
QR code and registration email,
Right.
so
Okay.
you can certainly reach out to them
Yep.
with any questions. Yeah. So there is always a lot happening here, but on my way up, I grabbed some flyers because I figured what better time to tell you.
Is this a little booklet you have?
That is a booklet, yep.
I like
You can-
that.
Yeah, and if you see any of these that you really want, you can talk amongst yourselves, only brought one of each, but there's more downstairs. Feel free to figure out who
Yeah,
gets
where are
it.
these located?
They're right outside my office there's a book.
There's a table right there.
Yeah, you can have that one if nobody else takes it.
I'd like to say, I really like the size of those new
Oh,
handouts.
Yeah.
these
Yeah,
here?
yeah, and the bigger sized ones that are on that flat table there, where you check out, those are eye-catching too, but these are really nice. I could see, people taking those quicker than they would the
I
great big
recommend
ones.
taking these, putting it on, magnet on it, and putting it on a refrigerator.
Correct.
Okay.
They also fit well in a pocket, and save some paper.
Yes,
Yeah,
and they save some
yeah,
paper.
Yeah,
Well, they save space downstairs too, right?
Sure, yeah.
can advertise
Yeah.
all of the papers we
and
have.
the holder that holds them is completely filled and it looks great, Space Team.
Yeah,
Space
Space
Force,
Force, and
Space
Carla's,
Force.
Carla's
Yeah.
IT
Carla
staff
Howard.
It really looks
Well,
great. I
we
really,
showed
I
up
like,
that
I like the
Yeah,
whole
we're happy with
concept
that.
of that, because the other ones, they fold over when
Oh,
they get sparse.
Yes.
Yeah.
This just looks so professional. I really love the look of it. So, thanks.
On maintenance and repair, just moving with the right agenda. Thank you very much for those comments, Marie. So the Udenzinello, Conrad and Matthew are the two principal architects in that firm. They submitted a report, or a proposal. They sent a report, but a proposal to do a study, to write reports at the end of the study. And we met with them, we being Paul Riccardi, Jason Adams, Mike Rosen, and myself last week, and had a couple of questions. They've answered those questions. We have a final report and are working on getting Tony's signature on that. I got confirmation from Paul this morning that there are clarifications and just one amendment to that report. Looks good to Paul. I think we're good to go on that, so I'm just waiting on the final approval and signature from Tony so that we can execute that contract and moving forward with the building study. There will be there's a couple phases. One is the existing conditions report. To conduct that report, one of the big things they need to do is a water penetration test. They'll be working with a third-party contractor. Kate's nodding her head, but you've already given her a heads up about this.
we've already talked about this, yeah.
It's going to be a couple of disruptive days. We may need to get a police detail. In some places when they've done it, they've actually had to get permits to close roads. Here on Beacon Street, there'll be big lifts that come in. That's probably going to be the only right-of-way, the only traffic area that's seriously impacted. But they'll be taking, installing big lifts and throwing a lot of water at various angles at the building over a sustained period to see where
When are you
it's
doing
coming in.
that?
We don't have a date yet. We will be
It
determining.
sounds like you should do
We
it
need
in
to
the
sell
summer.
tickets.
Yeah, there's definitely some
Preschool
weather
program.
required.
I was gonna say, I actually said that exact same thing to Clayton, did I not? I was like, woo!
This will be exciting. So it'll be exciting from the
Anytime
outside to
construction
see what's
equipment is
happening.
big with our
We obviously
crew.
want to- I'm really excited as well. It will be. I'll get to that.
It might be a little
On the
alarming for
outside,
kids too, which is why we spoke about it.
We don't want to see, obviously ice everywhere. So it's got to be a time when it's not going to freeze like tonight.
Correct.
But I was thinking of running through the water, that kind of
Oh.
thing.
That would be fun. That would be, peripheral and definitely staying out of people's way. We
We
want to
could
do it
sell
in time.
tickets and people could participate. This would be-
I think we may have some other adventures that would be better suited for this.
We'll work on some other outdoor water programming, Donna, I think.
We want to do it at a time when it's obviously not been wet, so we can see what's novel, and rather, if everything's already wet, that doesn't work so well. If you can see if everything's been dry, and then you can see what's getting wet by this produced water, it'd be much easier to look at the source and where it's coming from. Of course, the flip side, you think they're throwing all this water at it, it's not obviously, it's not always obvious where the water is penetrating from the inside without cutting holes in the wall. So part of this could be cutting holes in walls, which can be rather disruptive and noisy and messy. They predict it's going to take a couple of days to do this. The timeline has the initial pre-existing conditions study taking 2 months. So if we can execute the contract and be good to go, we're looking at probably around the end of March is when they'll be doing this. We'll work with Kate and the entire everybody to figure out the best days where this will be as at least disruptive as possible. We obviously don't want to do it when there's a big program in the children's room. So we'll be looking at dates and time of day as we're moving around and coordinating as best we can.
So my experience with water is that it travels wherever you don't expect it to go. And sometimes it takes a long time from the original source to get to its ultimate end.
Excuse me.
So I'm wondering how long you think this will take? What kind, do they have temperature detectors or moisture detectors, or what do they have?
They are experts, and so I trust that they have all the skills and experience to know exactly what they're looking for. They've done everything from other libraries to art museums to they have a whole bunch of places where they've done this exact work. The architects are specialists themselves, and obviously design buildings, but they're bringing in consultants who look at exactly this kind of issue. So I don't know exactly. It'll be fun to see. And a lot of us will learn a lot, I'm sure, through this process. But there's going to be one of the reasons it's taken us some time since the initial report is they were consulted with the experts they're going to be bringing in to make sure they're going to get actionable information for the final report. So the timeline is also looking very good to conduct both that and existing conditions report and then a building program study to get some proposals for a final plan for what we need for the foreseeable future by the end of the summer, so that we'll be ready with some numbers to bring to town meeting in the fall, so that we can ask for the capital that would be necessary to do this work. So there's much more interest, I think, in certain parts of town in what we need to do just to take care of the building, but I'm very much interested when we look at how to take care of the building, and we're asking for a lot of capital, I suspect, to do that. How do we make sure that we're rolling it in to look at the foreseeable future and looking at the full picture rather than realizing in a couple of years, oh, but we should have only asked for this as well, because you get one shot to ask for that kind of support typically. We want to make sure we're wise about how we do it.
I'm just wondering how expensive that kind of thing is. It seems very intensive, I guess.
The study itself?
Yeah.
The-
Throw in
yes.
the water and
I'd be
follow
happy to
it.
share the report with you if you'd like to see
Okay,
it.
yeah, I would
See
be
the
very
numbers.
interested in that.
So, but that's exciting progress.
Yes. definitely. It's good to hear.
Currently, everything is working smoothly. There's a couple pieces you'll see in Jim and my reports about how the building is doing right now. We have a blower, plug that we're working, that needs some attention. We've isolated and figured out that we had a breaker that got replaced. Standard building maintenance things that are going smoothly. No cause of major concern.
Great. All right, Friends of the Library.
So we're meeting tomorrow night.
We're
and I
meeting
will be
tomorrow
taking Lydia's
Taking-
regular
yep.
role with the friends. I will be attending
Oh,
with you
great.
tomorrow night.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, we'll be just a lot of discussion over future fundraising. So lots of plans in the works. So I think that's what the majority of the time will be taken up by. So be prepared.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right, correspondence.
Correspondence leads, as I like it to, with some praise for library staff, which is great. Then there is a piece, if you haven't had time to look through yet, let me actually turn the correspondence section here in front of me. That's all right. We have what do we have? There was a piece about AI slop that I shared.
Yeah.
I think that was the main piece. There's been a lot of concern, and even since then, Midwest Tape has sent out a letter to everybody promising that they have a plan in place that they'll be sharing soon. We'll see what happens. There's also a summit being planned to look at ebooks across the country that I've been invited to help plan. I've actually been talking to Kate in her role with the Digital Content Working Group to figure out the best people across the state to be both organizing, attending the summit, and helping organize it as well. And we have a program in May, a week after that summit, where people from Midwest Tape, who that article about AI slop is really all about, will be coming to talk about it. So it's an actively and quickly developing subject. At the MLS meeting just yesterday as well, there was some information shared about the state of ebook bills. If you recall, there were two big bills in front of the legislature, and I'll put more of this in next month's packet, so I literally just learned this yesterday, but they had the language they got through committee in the last section around both protecting library choice and protecting librarians. There was one there, the Freedom to Read bill, and then another book to expand access to ebooks. They're taking the same language, they've been reintroduced as new bills, and so those had bill numbers and are working their way through the legislative process once again this term.
Now, is that just, it's MLS, but throughout New England, are other states facing the same issues?
So that's why there's an ebook summit. It's going to be in Connecticut, and it's being organized by Library Futures. The director is based out of California, out of New York, but I know people who are organizing it from Connecticut, New Jersey, Rhode Island, and it's affecting that's who are some of the main organizers for this summit. But it's affecting the entire country. It's affecting librarians across North America and across the entire world, really.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that.
So more to come on those subjects.
Yes.
All right, great. All right, on to old business. We had trustee committee meetings, correct?
We did, we had two this month.
That's right, that's right. I'm trying to remember the outcome of the ad hoc, which I think we'll use that as the, to segue into the next point. But what was the other meeting? We had finance.
Finance.
Yes,
Committee.
and finance,
Finance.
exactly.
Finance committee, okay.
And I did just today, Tony passed out his, the budget, his budget that he's sharing with the Board of Selectmen this evening. And so I've done some preliminary look at it and have a couple of questions I'm looking to get answered.
Okay.
We can talk more about that as that process
That moves through. Okay, great. All right.
And it has not been shared with the Finance Committee yet.
Right.
That's sometime in the future.
Okay, fantastic. And the ad hoc committee got together and in the process of looking at the trustee bylaws, was determined that it should be brought up as something for the entire board to review and make notes on. I think that's where we left it, right? We're going to, right, because of the language. It was just reviewed in 2022, but we felt that the subcommittee felt that there was some discrepancy between some of the process, the way it was written, and what actually happens. Nothing ground shaking, but that perhaps it would be good to have eyes on it and just to see what, to see basically what the boards do, the function of the trustees are versus what actually happens and how that's carried out. And just some of the language there was a little, not misleading, but I don't know how really. to determine.
Ambiguous.
A little ambiguous, maybe a little.
Inaccurate in hindsight.
Yeah, right, I
Yeah.
thought so too, because
Yeah.
I just reviewed
Yeah.
it before our finance committee, and I'm going,
Yeah.
So are you thinking of having a separate board meeting for that?
I think the plan was we would make the document available and have everyone, have the board look at it over a period of time, submit any feedback and comments, and then the ad hoc committee would reconvene and kind of take all those suggestions and draft and update the document, and then present that again for approval.
so do you have a timeline for this?
Did we have one put
We
together?
didn't set a
No.
time.
Okay,
So-
so,
Can we do that now?
I think
Yeah,
that's great.
why not?
okay.
All right, when, should we release that? Because do we ought to do it online as we did before, a Google Doc?
To be in
or-
compliance with open meeting, we
Yeah.
really need everybody to work on their own version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And share comments, and then,
Okay.
we can put all this together as a committee, have a process where the committee decides, which to accept, how to
Sure.
take,
Yeah.
You could, each review the entire thing, you could review sections and compare, it really depends on how you want to move forward.
Okay.
And how long people need. We can make it available, it's right now, it can be a Word doc, or it can be a Google Doc. You can use a PDF that's already been supplied, whatever is gonna be the easiest tool I'm happy to provide.
Okay, all right, so,
Okay.
I guess we can take that as a personal choice then. And when do we want to have, how much time does everyone want to have to work on this? Anything, any limits?
Well, time aside, I'd like to have it in Word form,
Okay,
and I think that would need to be sent out. I see the PDF that is embedded in the packet, but,
I can send you the Word document tomorrow, that's.
Okay.
Okay.
somewhere between 2 and 4 weeks for review. If we want to be aggressive, make it 2.
yeah,
But some may not be comfortable with that, so.
I'm not
what would
comfortable
you-
with that.
What would you recommend, Don?
At least 4 weeks. I am a very busy person, and I'm sure the rest of you are too.
Would-
Plus, I'm going
would
to have
4
to
weeks
learn
be
how
enough?
to do this.
Would 4 weeks be enough for you? Comfortable with that?
I don't know, because I don't know what we're doing.
It's a review of the bylaws and.
I understand that.
Markup of
It's the
suggestions.
putting it on the computer and editing part that I have no clue about.
We can also do it double spaced and you can handwrite. I'm
Yeah.
happy to
Okay.
whatever
that,
format is
that,
easier.
yeah, if that's easier, that's
All
fine,
right.
yeah.
So I might suggest that we just put notes together, right? Anybody, whatever, napkins, email, on a document, and maybe, by our next meeting, which is about a month.
Okay.
Our next meeting is exactly 4 weeks because this is February.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
is that,
Same day next one.
Yeah, that's what, by next meeting, we could have that, and then we could make sure we got it in, and then we could have an ad hoc meeting to review it, and then at the following meeting, come back with
With the
that information,
revised-
so
yeah.
is that, I don't think there's any urgency driving this review.
No, no,
So the next meeting would be the deadline for delivering this set of comments and notes to the ad hoc committee, which would start at that point,
right,
indicate what it's comfortable with when it sees the mountain of changes.
yeah,
We'll work, then we'll have another month or whatever to work through it and come back with the
and.
recommendations.
Right, and so whatever way you're most comfortable digitally working on it or handwritten notes, either way is fine.
Well, I like Sherry's suggestion, everybody make notes the way
Yeah.
they want to,
Yeah, absolutely.
on a napkin or whatever.
Yeah. Really.
The more legible, the more likely they'll action.
Well, we want-
Legibility is important.
We want the ad hoc committee to earn its pay. You know.
That's the line, because we don't want anyone to be, have a barrier in how to provide
Right.
feedback.
That's
It's really
exactly
just
right.
intended to be like, whatever works for you, it doesn't matter.
That's
Okay.
right.
You can leave
If
a
you wanna
voice,
meet
a
with me,
voicemail.
I'm gonna get on my old
Yeah.
cassette tape.
Make it work.
All
Did
right.
everybody hear that offer?
No,
If anybody would find it easiest to just simply meet with me and
Yeah,
have me take
okay.
your notes, whatever works.
yeah.
All right. All right, any other questions about that? We all set?
Thanks for doing that work, ad hoc.
They're the best.
Yes.
All right, Clayton, patrons in the library.
So if you saw Michael's report, and reference it mine as well, we saw more people in January than any time since last August. We are seeing a lot of people talking to Kate earlier today. Lydia spent time down in Children's, you can personally attest to me.
Lydia covered children. Thank you,
I
Lydia.
faced my fears.
Here's your reason. Okay, so Lydia's actually
Working
wonderful with
in
children, and she was fine.
children's-
It was an hour. She survived. She was great.
Shell shock?
It was very busy.
Yes.
Anecdotally, we are seeing a rise of people that are concerned about the state of affairs and people taking advantage of our notary and passport services to make sure that they're protected as best they can. Tensions are high. We're seeing some more unhoused people who use the library, or people who we think may be unhoused. We obviously do not know, and we don't inquire about people's housing situation. But we had to have some conversations recently with folks who are having problems, but we're just aware that there are some stresses here in the community, and those are reflected here in the library. People are getting along and learning how to use it. We're just seeing a lot of people and a lot of different people use the library.
All right, any new business?
Not that I haven't already mentioned it.
Yes. Search warrants and miscellaneous advisories.
We have not had any
None?
this month.
All right. Would anyone like to make any comments?
Yes.
Fantastic, Donna. Take it away.
Most of you have seen my picture. I am very pleased that the library is participating in protecting the rights of the immigrants. And I will pass this down to whoever hasn't seen it. I posted this in the laundromat. They have in 12 languages, I can only fit 9 on the bulletin board. Your legal rights, so that people can read it and understand, because some people who are not citizens or are new here don't even know that the rights we have cover them as well. And that also there's handouts in various languages that explain to you what the handout is for, and then in English to hand to the bad guy, whoever he may be, that comes, that you can say, I'm not opening the door, I have legal rights, like that. And I just think it's a wonderful effort, because this is a very scary thing for people. They're not going out, they're not sending their kids to school, they're not patronizing their local stores. And one of our customers in the laundromat comes from an African country. And he's a citizen and has been for 25 years, and his wife as well. But they went to a place in Boston that is patronized by their people from their country. And the wife happened to see a young man that she knew from her village, and she knew he didn't have papers, and she said, don't come here anymore, because this is where they're gonna look for you. You know, people are telling me stories like that. It's just terrible. I mean, these are people. So I am glad the library is participating in this, and I'm glad that the information is available here to help people, to help them with what their legal rights are, like, and then the notary, the passport. There must be other things that you are helping with.
Library cards, you do not, we ask that you show that you live in Massachusetts. You do not ask for any, there's standards, but we do not ask for citizenship documentation to have a library card. So we don't know the citizenship status of any of our patrons, nor do we will not ask.
We've been making a concerted effort to translate more relevant materials into other languages. If vendors already have, something like Libby or Hoopla, if they have flyers that are already translated, acquiring those from them. And I'm very grateful for the grants that I've gotten from MLS to keep studying Spanish. And I've been working on translating the materials about passports into Spanish, and we're talking about doing some additional outreach. There's kind of a surge of folks wanting to get more solid documentation, whether they're children who are birthright citizens or folks who were recently naturalized as opposed to having a birth certificate. So we're really, I'm working with Darshana to kind of make some contacts in the community where we can bring some of the print materials, but also possibly have offer passport appointments outside the library, like go to them to offer these notary or passport appointments. So that's in the works, and there's a feeling of urgency about it. Like, let's actually, let's make it happen. Let's do it.
There's also been a real rise in community support. As I reported last month, and as Kirsty and Norma have talked about, the number of people signing up for orientation for the literacy classes and to be English language tutors has really surged in the last couple of months, and the interest from the community to figure out ways that support can be given in meaningful ways to develop relationships and provide resources to people who can benefit. It's really, it has been a silver lining to some of the challenges that we've seen across the country.
John?
On another related topic, we circulated the thing about our programs for Black History Month. The Defense Department has suspended Black History Month as an anti-DEI gesture. By continuing to have this, it's a subtle little way of keeping the truth alive. Another area that may not have gotten as much attention is women in the uniformed services. When they had the big airplane crash, Trump announced that he knew why it was. It was because they were allowing DEI people into those things, and it's later become apparent that he's referring to one woman pilot. And some official there, it might have been Secretary of Transportation, decided their solution is that they're going to refer to pilots as men in future communications.
All pilots.
All pilots. And this made me think of, we could have a program on a variety of things of women, milestones in various branches of the military. I have contacts from my working days on women in the fire service who are probably more numerous than most people realize, and some of them have risen to the rank of chief of their departments. When I was doing my little book on Norwood, one of the little sidebars, I think, was a woman from Norwood who became the second Navy officer to get her own ship. So you could have the local connection, you could put a program together, and it doesn't confront this stuff, it just says, here's some relevant facts, you be the judge.
So there's two things that I want to share from last month that I haven't been elsewhere. Thank you for sharing those stories, We had a training that several staff attended, and people, it was a national, statewide training from the Massachusetts Committee Against Discrimination about the rights that people have in this state that have been hard fought, and how we as people who are responsible for employees, who are responsible for public accommodations, some people could be responsible in our, we know there are people who are responsible in our community responsible for providing housing for folks, and there are strong laws in Massachusetts for people that, who are members of protected classes, which include gender, sexual orientation, gender, there's a lot of protected classes. National origin is one that have been hard fought for, and we have responsibility, not just because an ethical and moral responsibility, but a legal liability if we fail to prevent discrimination or harassment to anyone, but especially anyone because they're a membership in a protected class. And that's something I think we all need to remember and carry forward as representatives for the Commonwealth, that we have just a clear responsibility not to fall stray and stray from those hard-fought protections that we have here in the state. The other thing that I wanted to share was a training at the Massachusetts Municipal Association annual conference, which I attended, called Connect 351, because there's 351 municipalities across the state. And it was a training on DEI and understanding, and this is something that the entire state is behind, clearly, to talk about what it means, how do we understand identity, how do we understand culture, starting with ourselves. And it was a great training and much more than we're going into now, but it started really towards the beginning talking about not DEI as letters, but one of the things that we can really do to help is to contextualize. Who do we know that's being erased? What do we know about ourselves? How do we speak up for trans and non-binary people that we know are under attack to be erased right now? And then how do we talk about those letters DEI in meaningful ways? And they broke it down in a way that it has really stuck with me, which is saying, when we talk about diversity, we're talking about, who's being invited to the party? Are we inviting the right people? Everybody. Is everybody equally invited to the party? When we talk about belonging, which is DEIB, is often, the B isn't there, but let's talk about when we invite people to the party, do people feel welcome at that party? That's important. It's not enough just to invite. We want to make sure everybody feels welcome at the party we throw. When we talk about inclusion, we talk about who's involved in the planning of the party. Is everybody able to be involved in the planning of the party that we're doing? And when we talk about equity, who gets to talk about whether it's even time to have a party? When you break it down like that, it says, of course, we want everybody to be involved, to be invited, to feel welcome in our party, to feel included, to be involved in the planning if they would like to be, and to be involved in that decision making. Is now the time to party, or do we need to take some other kind of action? Well, I think when we put it that way, it becomes very hard. It personalizes it to the people that we know in our lives, and I would encourage us to take that forward as we figure out how to position ourselves in the greater scheme of things.
Thank you.
Good point. Good words.
Thank you for letting me share that.
No, thanks for sharing. Anyone else have any remarks? No? Well, that leads us to the end.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
And seconded, all right. We need to vote?
Yes.
All in favor?
All in favor, aye, all right. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Great meeting.